Welcome to the Women in Vinyl podcast with Jen DiEugenio, founder of Women in Vinyl, and contributor Robin Raymond. This podcast facilitates conversations with those working in the vinyl record industry to educate, demystify, and diversify the vinyl community.
Welcome back to another episode of Women in Vinyl. My name is Ariel Lowe, and I am guest hosting this month's podcast. I am one of the co-founders of Trans Music Archive, a nonprofit organization founded to help trans artists press vinyl at no cost to them, as well as building out a physical archive and collection of trans music making on vinyl. Vinyl records is such a wonderful medium for us because it is permanent and everlasting and resistant to censorship and erasure and policing. And, you know, in this increasingly techno-fascist state that we're in, all of these things feel like the right place for us to be putting our energy in terms of music preservation, as well as bring back value to music that's been devalued over, you know, the years of streaming. Physical media is ever so important, and our work here is to try and create more physical media for artists, providing them a meaningful way to spread their music and have their music heard, and to be able to actually make some money doing music. I had a wonderful opportunity to chat with Alana last week, who is a wonderful DJ based in New York, current resident DJ at Public Records, an amazing club designed with vinyl in mind. And today she'll be guest hosting a conversation with Octo Octa and Eris Drew, both two incredible, legendary vinyl-only DJs who have been in the scene doing parties, hosting workshops, and really just spreading the good word of vinyl on the dance floor. So please welcome Alana and Eris Drew and Octo Octa.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having us. Yeah. Hi, Alana.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Thank you for agreeing to do this and joining us for this conversation about that special hard media that we all love, the vinyl record. Just to introduce myself for the audience, my name is Alana Jordan, probably better known by my artist name, Alana. I'm a vinyl collector and specifically DJ of dance music for 18 years now. And I'm also a resident DJ at Public Records nightclub in Gowanus, Brooklyn. And I have here with me Eris Drew and Octo Octa, who I'll let introduce themselves.
Go ahead, start.
Yeah, hi, I'm Eris Drew. Oh my God, I haven't had to introduce myself.
You want me to do it first?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it first. Hi, I'm Octo Octa. I've been a electronic musician and DJ for 24 years. I've been releasing records and touring since 2011. I've put out a ton of vinyl myself, and I am a all vinyl DJ here with my partner Eris. And that's me. You are?
I'm Eris Drew. I'm also an all vinyl DJ, which I started DJing in 1994. I've been involved with records since the 90s. And, you know, my latest venture being T4T Love Energy, the label I run with Maya, who's my partner in all things, both DJing and in love. And you know, we're talking to you right now from our cabin, which kind of says about a lot of our life. Like we ship our records out from here. We saw our self-releasing Maya's album coming up. So
we have about 15,000 records.
Yeah, we got about 15,000 records. We got
two music studios.
We have Studio A and Studio B. We also have a beautiful, like very old school, like Dad's 70s hi-fi sound system in our like dining room / listening room.
And a big custom sound system for playing records really loud.
Yeah. But when we're not here, we're lugging around our records with us to gig after gig internationally because, you know, the only way we can play our sets is, you know, bringing these records around. So we carry suitcases of records around, and then we shop for vinyl all over the world. So I feel kind of part of an international sort of community of record shops and
collectors
and
DJs.
Yeah, and then we take the vinyl so seriously as artists that we actually have a tour production manager, Dan Koya, who like advances all the shows and makes sure we have enough concrete and the right kind of turntables and the right kind of setup and isolated stages and everything, so we're not feeding back or skipping, and we're always like having to sound check just like a band.
We've been doing it a long time and we take it very seriously. Trying to make it possible to play records all over the world. So that's us.
Yeah, I think that was a great primer. And can I just say, I wish I had somebody making sure all the clubs had concrete and the right turntables and everything.
Well, and it's one of these things, it's like you're not asking for the world. They cost like $15, $20, $30 each a slab. So it's like one of the cheapest backlines you could actually ask for, but somebody has to go to a hardware store and fucking
lug it around.
No, it's crazy how not every club has those. You should just have that for your decks. Full stop. But anyway, that was a great intro. Thank you guys so much. We can get into it, and I guess start at the beginning. Like, how'd you get into vinyl? I mean, maybe some early memories of just vinyl parties, raves, maybe record shops, and then from there, how you learned how to DJ, or what made you want to get into DJing specifically with vinyl.
Yeah, go for it.
I first started buying my first records when I was around 13, 14 years old.
Which was when?
Which was in 1999 or 2000. I fell in love with drum and bass when I first got the internet at 13, and I really, really wanted to be a DJ. And so I started very, very, very slowly buying records at that time, and then trying to DJ at my house very unsuccessfully. I soon changed over to buying a drum machine and making dance music because I could make more dance music with less stuff than it was for building a record collection as a young teenager. Later, when I moved to Brooklyn in about 2010 from New Hampshire, I felt I had a lot of access to record stores for the first time. So I was going to places like Halcyon and Co-op 87 and Academy and A1. And I started building out a record collection with the cheapest records that I could find. And then also during that time, while being a live performer, taking my fees that I was getting from playing to then investing in a pair of turntables and a mixer and stuff at home in my apartment, started practicing DJing there. And eventually my friend Sam Callum Matthews, plays as Callum Matthews, encouraged me to also be out DJing with him. So I started DJing around New York City a couple years later. And then we met when? 2000?
I think 17, 16, 17.
I think we met in like 2016 and we started dating around 2017, 2018. And when I met Eris and found someone else that was very deeply in love with playing vinyl records and had a lot of technical skill because she'd been doing it longer, I essentially doubled down in my my DJing attempts and worked on getting better and better, so that I could go play with her. And I don't know, we're here now, 8 years later. More records than we know what to do with.
Well, and when I met Maya, I'd been DJing for 23 years, but I just started really touring in earnest.
So start from the beginning.
Well, I think telling it this way is sweet, because what I want to say is, is that even though I've been doing it longer, she also activated a kind of playfulness and interest in engaging with a lot of the technical aspects of DJing in terms of like, I don't know, it was hard trying to play in festival settings and things like this, and playing now that like the golden age of vinyl is past, and a lot of places don't have proficiency or the right equipment or the right DJ booths for vinyl. And so really like going on that mission to get both as good as we could artistically, but also to share music and share techniques and try to figure out the best ways to do these sound checks and stuff. Because I started in 1994 DJing, but I started collecting records in the 80s. my dad had a Marantz hi-fi, like these real efficient old wood speakers, and music sounded great on. My parents listened to disco, and so I wanted to have the 12-inch singles of my favorite synth groups, specifically Depeche Mode. I got like Strangelove and Behind the Wheel in like 1988, 87, 88. That and Technique by New Order, all on 12-inch at like my local West Suburban like record store. And then, in the early years, as I was exploring techno, I was getting a lot of CDs. Like when I got Orbital and all that stuff, I got it on CD. But then I went to raves, and at raves, these house DJs and these techno DJs and these breaks DJs were all playing off wax, because that's I would learn then that if you wanted real underground cuts, that's where you would go to find them. So in 1994, I sold a couple books of acid and bought some turntables, and from some people.
Some people.
And then started, because I was blown away by this DJ Mystic Bill, who was mixing the records, and I was like, because I'd gone to like teen clubs and like heard the music kind of move, between listening on the radio with the real fast mixing. But this was more like a musical alchemy, with the records really like being blended over like a long period of time, and everyone being like built, like taken into a trance, even by these like whether it was like some cool Dutch progressive house record or some super elemental like Nick Holder record, or like Chicago record, like a Sneaky Tim or something on Dance Mania, one of those more tracky ones, not one of the like quote booty ones, like he's mixing all that stuff together and creating this kind of like collage and pastiche, and he's playing like the tribute to Janis Joplin. So you're hearing these like voices from the 60s, like kind of like interspersed with these like house. And I just was like, what the hell? Like, this is like so amazing. So I started going to Gramophone Records in Chicago on the north side, Hot Jams Records on like the south side, and like Hip House on the west side. And there were other places around too, Jumpin' Music and stuff like that. But oh my God, it was just like the golden age of dance music in Chicago, in that there were all these record stores and they all had different shit. It was really cool to get imports. You could have a really special sound buying imports then, because you could get records that weren't making it into town in like large numbers. And just get different things. So anyway, I started building a really idiosyncratic collection by going to parties and trying to train spot records from like DJs like Mystic Bill and Terry Mullen, but also finding my favorite tracks on the radio. Like they're playing DBX Bleep and like really cool Detroit stuff like that, like just on radio mixes. And so I was like doing a weird thing of like taking from all these different, different things. Also like the electronica culture of the 90s. I love Chemical Brothers and Orbital and all that. But anyway, so that's been kind of my journey, and I've just been collecting records and mixing records ever since. A lot of people went digital. It just didn't work for me. I just kept wanting to play records. I've always had like a really special connection to them that's just deepened and grown over time to almost like mythical kind of like couples, where I've built mythologies around them. And it's like Maya and I's love language and stuff, these records and connections between friends. I mean, Lana, would we be friends if we weren't all into records? I don't know. I mean, I really like you. I would hope so, but I don't know. It brings us together.
It brings us together.
Like our technology.
It brings us together. Totally. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that my first interaction with you guys was Maya. You had given me guest list graciously without knowing me to your guys' party at Goodroom, and I brought you a record as a gift. It was a Dan Hartman and Liliella Holloway record with a Todd Terry mix on the B-side. And I was like, I've been listening to this record for years and I feel like you would love it. And I'll never forget this. You took the record from me and you looked at me and you went, Todd Terry is my favorite producer.
It's still true.
And I was like, all right, it's meant to be. Meant to be.
Of course.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I love that you mentioned all those different shops, Eris. Love that Gramophone is still around. Love that Michael Serafini is still conducting the labor of love that is keeping that shop open.
Yeah, because it had different owners, and one of those owners passed away. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that's probably a good segue. You know, you guys are all over the world, international touring, dare I say, superstar DJs. So like what's the spot around, like what are some of your favorite shops, places for vinyl around the world? I'm sure that you have some either deep cuts or just really special places to you.
Oh
I'd love
yeah,
to hear.
I have an enormous list that so as we travel constantly, I keep track of record stores in different cities and places that we go. Some are like, as we'll like land somewhere and I'll start looking at stores and saving them. So we don't always get to go to all of them, but a bunch of them are, I don't know. I mean, geez, where's favorite places? I was mentioning Bikini Wax in Berlin is still, that's one of my favorite stores of all time.
Palais du Dance
Play to Dance in
in
Glasgow.
Glasgow.
Jeez.
My favorite store in the world for new music is Phonica
Hanukkah.
in London.
Yep.
We
We're
we
always
love,
at we're always at Human Head in New York every single time.
we
You
love Threads.
Oh, Detroit Threads is so good.
that,
We
yeah.
love, but we love going to Amoeba because it's like you get that joy of going to like a big box store, which you really don't get. You don't get, like you can go to Tower Records in Tokyo and stuff. But they don't really have like that like dance underground dance vinyl and stuff. So
Yeah, but like Amoeba's like a good big box store that has lots of stuff hidden there. And also a lot of people don't go through those bins because it's the big box store. One of our favorite things, like going and shopping the world too, is that we don't necessarily always go to like dance music specialists, even though we're both DJs. We like going to lots of stores that like we'll get somewhere and someone will give us a suggestion and we'll be like, that's great, but what are the other stores? And they'll be like, well, they're not like dance music stores. And we'll be like, great. So what are the other stores as well? Because there's always stuff almost everywhere, as long as they have a bin of some singles.
yeah, we love going places that are just like rock shops.
Yeah, rock
pretty
shops
much.
are great.
Not great.
There's always something hiding somewhere. So it's a constant, it's a, for us traveling everywhere, it's like it's the thing that her and I like to go do other than going to coffee shops, is like going to record stores all over the world.
Now we live in New Hampshire, so I should say our favorite local record store is called R.S. Butler, and that is it's part of like an antique store, and the owner buys huge collections and has like barns and stuff. And like first time Maya and I were together, we went record shopping there because he had boxes and boxes and boxes of 1990s and like late 80s
Yeah, lately.
dance mix vinyl, like remix service love, major label stuff.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
It was a lot of old Boston dance pool records that had been he had bought a collection from years and years ago. So it was really special because I took her there essentially on a date and talked to the guy. He had a bunch. He sells all these records and has singles in the back. And I was like, "Do you have more singles?" He's like, "I have an entire second floor barn of singles." So we started going up there and going through the dance music for a couple years until he sold the collection. But it just shows you, it's just like, we're in Seacoast, New Hampshire, near Antique Alley, and there are not dance music shops around here, but literally about 15 minutes away from where we live, there was 12,000 dance singles sitting in a barn waiting for people to go through it. So that's some of the magic of like record shopping around the world and near your house. You find stuff everywhere.
It was like one of our first real dates, and we
It's so sweet.
there were these two. They're lamb, right?
There are two sheep.
Oh no, sheep, of course. Two sheep are in the bottom, and then we're up top.
So it was just a very quiet day because it was still winter, and they were just very quietly making sounds below us while we were going through everything.
I was such a city girl. I was like, oh fuck, I am so wherever she is. This is amazing. This is
where did I steal? What's this forest I stole you out to?
Yeah, and I got this DJ EFX mix of
Cover
Girls
Yeah,
song,
Cover Girls.
like a little bit of like a later era for Cover Girls song
Hmm.
called
what was the name of that record? The thing I
Well, it's like one of those "if you love me, show me" kind of messages,
Yeah.
things. I played that at the gig after I fell in love with her here more deeply, and then, or at least was like ritually connected to her, and then yeah, and then started playing that tune. I remember how thunderous it felt. It was so emotional. Anyway,
a big part of our relationship, and also, or like Eris had said earlier, like we have records are like part of our love language of speaking to each other and sharing music. So it's been such an important focus on how we communicate with one another.
Yeah, the dub mix is great, but the club mix is where you get to tell people things.
It's
And
very true.
it feels great. Also, we love a DJ EFX record.
Of
So many
course.
good ones. So many
Yes.
good ones. But that's an absurdly heartwarming story. Thank you. Certainly feels good to hear. Faith in humanity is restored a little bit. Why don't we get into the technical side of things? Because I know, and you guys have impressed this upon me even more than I already knew it to be true, but the technical side is like super important. And I'm curious what your guys' preferred setup is when you play, as far as mixers, turntables, cartridges go, and maybe some other important technical aspects of the vinyl itself, like keeping it safe.
That's what I was going to say. Let's just talk about what's actually the challenges of being a vinyl DJ
like
today.
what's the problem, right? Yes, there's a couple.
So there's always a kind of mythos of back in the day, people put out a card table and threw two turntables on there, and then a party started.
It was like that, but yeah.
And so we're talking about vibrations, and when you are in a club environment, or even at a house party or a basement party, wherever you are, trying to play records, you are constantly dealing with the vibration of the environment. And that comes from both the speakers that are around the turntables and dealing with the bass that is feeding back through the turntables, or you're also dealing with the surface in which everything is set up upon, meaning that if I set a table on wood,
and everybody's
on a
dancing,
wood floor, and everyone's dancing, and that dance floor is flexing. It is making those turntables move up and down also. So the reason that this is a constant issue today is because most of the DJ market has moved to digital players.
Right. There's a time when if you had to throw a party, you needed to make sure your vinyl was going to work. Otherwise, no one could play.
No one could play.
Ever.
You as a promoter would have a setup and no DJs can play. I don't know if you're gonna be having more parties.
So almost all clubs, and I'm sure, Lana, when you got started and still being, especially all of us being from the American underground where things cycled much more slowly, a lot of these old DJ booths either were around then or still exist, where they're poured out of concrete, or there's like really great cares taken for isolation. And, and so now, especially this like dance music's also moved on to a lot of stages, because of all this. First thing we have to do is assess what everything's set up on. And if we're on a stage, the goal is to have a separated platform. So the turntables are like not anchored to the same thing that we're standing on and that the monitors are on, or that same scaffolding that the like mains are flown on, because these are a lot of array systems. So that takes some pre-planning.
So trying to minimize the amount of vibration being attached to the surface in which the turntables are being placed.
That way we don't jump the needle by dancing, and also our monitors aren't feeding back through the hollow stage.
It can be really hard to be DJing and have to stand perfectly still, because every time you take a single step, it skips a record on the table. So.
But now, since so many clubs don't have like the best booths for vinyl anymore, now a lot of these precautions have to be taken at the venue level.
Right. There's a lot of spaces are being set up now, typically with digital in mind, in which case you don't really need to worry about that much stuff. You can have vibrations and tables going crazy and people bumping into stuff, and it doesn't really matter. So our consistent current issue is to make sure that the requirements are met so that when we go into these spaces that we can go play records.
So we basically want like 4 big slabs of concrete to go into the turntables, which are separated by squash balls. ice snow feet on the tables?
An ice snow feed is kind of like the idea of, if you've ever seen when people used to take ashtrays and put a bunch of rubber bands around them and then set the turntable feet on top of 4 like rubber banded ashtrays. The idea is that, it's the rubber bands are helping to absorb some of the vibration. So
when you're on like a hollow stage, for example, and everything's kind of shaking, the turntable doesn't care because it's just sort of like free floating, like kind of like quavering above, on these like kind of rubber bands that are the perfect tension for the weight of a Technics SL 1200 model turntable.
Yeah,
the old models, not the 7s or whatever.
Yeah,
those
not the brand new ones, but the older ones.
But the older ones, like all those
Mark IIs,
Mark
Mark Vs.
So we always want a 1200 M5G.
Yeah, our preferred turntable is the 1200 M5Gs. And
the reason for that, one is performance related, but I consider secondary, which is that it's got a ±16 and a ±8. So when you're pitch mixing, that means that gives you a broader range in which to speed up or slow down a record. But you can also go down if you don't need that extra room, you can stay at 8, which means your movements are more precise because you're moving, you have a narrow. So
that's one of the reasons we like that turntable. The second one is that it's a digitally calibrated turntable, unlike a Technics Mark II.
The pitch is digitally calibrated, that circuit is.
The reason that we like a turntable that has a digital calibration is that as Eris and I tour all over the world, while we travel with our records, we do not travel with turntables or a mixer or something like that. These are typically things that are provided by the club or the festival that we're going to go play.
Yeah.
So turntables have been around for 40 years.
30 more than that.
Yeah. So
I think it's 79 that the MK2 was released. Yeah.
So we're dealing with equipment that was produced for a long time, but are definitely older pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
And while they are consistently maintained and serviced, we found that over the past 5-10 years is that they're not holding their calibration as well as they used to. So when we use something like a Technics M5G that's digitally calibrated, we know that when we show up at more gigs, it's consistently calibrated the same no matter where we are, unless there's a really major issue with the turntable.
So for people who don't know, it's like when you ride the pitch, you're basically keeping your hand on the pitch the entire time the two records are playing together. And the point is to synchronize them perfectly, both in their BPM, but also, so that all the percussion and everything and the phrasing is all lining up.
And stays aligned.
And because it's not a digital file, because there's variations in like the mechanism and in the pressing of the record, and maybe even in the older equipment used to make some of it and stuff like that. And there's even a little wobble in the pitch adjuster itself. Anyway, you've got to be constantly micro adjusting if you don't want people to notice that the speed is changing slightly. So you ride that pitch, meaning you keep your hand on it, and that's how you can make two songs stay together and mix them really musically sometimes over many minutes, without ever breaking the flow of the two of them together. And that your other choice, of course, is to just kind of push the platter forward with your finger or hold it back with your finger. That's going to, of course, create like kind of pitch bends and like slides and wobbles and things. So
yeah,
some people do it that way, and sometimes in a pinch you need to, because it's a fast adjustment and it's very predictable. But on the CDJ, nobody hears that, of course, because it has this little button which makes it always stay in this exact
same key and stuff.
Yeah. So it does this weird magic where it unhinges pitch and time, which is actually really weird to your ear. Your ear wants to hear something slow down. It wants to hear its pitch actually also slow down.
Yeah. No, I agree. When I use the CDJs, I never do the master tempo ever. Like if I have to use a CDJ, I'm leaving the pitch alternate.
Because I'm guessing you get more sonic feedback with your kind of speeding up and slowing down like by having having a haptic of the sound itself being adjusted.
Yeah, everybody seems to use the master tempo, and I'm like, no, I want this to mirror vinyl as much as possible. And I don't really use CDJs. I have them, don't use them really. But okay.
We actually don't know. We don't really.
Eris doesn't really know how to use them.
Use them, yeah.
When I was a live performer for a number of years, I couldn't tour with my live equipment and tour with records. So I played digital files for probably about 1.5 years, 2 years. And then once I met Eris, I felt more comfortable making the chaos choice of being just doing vinyl only with no backups.
Yeah, I bought the CDJ 2000s in 2013, the 2000 Nexus when they came out. I remember 2012 and 13 was that era where everybody was like, vinyl's going away. And everybody was trying to convince you, as if you were still holding on to vinyl, people were like, give it up, play digital around that time in dance music.
Mm-hmm.
And I refused. We refused, obviously.
That's when I started an all vinyl night at Smart Bar.
Yes.
That was super interesting on the technical side. And honestly, I know we could go on forever about, the technical complexities of spinning vinyl, because there are a lot. But I know you guys feel passionately, and I feel passionately about the cultural side of all of this, the DJ in the context of queer nightlife, queer culture, the storytelling, the love language, like you're saying. What is the importance of the DJ in queer and nightlife in general? And then vinyl as it pertains to house music and nightlife culture, maybe through the lens of how, at its heart, house music and dance music and disco and all that stuff is gay, trans, Black music, and was made sort of by us, for us. I mean, that's a broad jumping off point, but I know there's a lot to say on that side too. So I'm curious what you guys would say.
Why do we find the record to be such an interesting cultural artifact? We have a lot of mythology that we build up around the records that we have. And it is the physical manifestation of the music. So we have this medium that we listen to. It's for our ears. It moves into our body. We engage with it through the air. But the medium in which we as DJs like to interact with it is through spinning records themselves and having the physical manifestation of the sound wave on the wax. I get to hold my music physically and touch it as I put it down on a platter to then listen to it, to spin it, to then present it to other people. The way I know my music as a DJ is by looking at my records, and it's looking at the sleeve and the label and the markings I put on it and the energy that's been charged with it and the memories that are built into each of those records when I hold them and look at them. So when I'm playing from night to night or gig to gig, I have this constant buildup of energy and ideas around the thing that I'm picking up and playing. And also physically putting marks on it at times, from either marking it with information that I have from BPM to the side I want to play, to also putting skips into it or weird scratch on it or something like that. Like there's this action of me, myself, changing a part of the wax as it's being played over and over again. I feel we both find that there's like a magic energy that's built up on the records themselves as they're consistently played for people and in spaces. And that I find a greater connection is built with the wax itself every single time that I'm going and spinning it somewhere.
It becomes a sacred object through a community process. And you can find in whatever ontology you want to ascribe to the word sacred. It doesn't, I don't really care. It's just that's what it is. It becomes a ritual object that is in some sense signifies this elevated moment that we all experience together on the dance floor. We get to carry them around with us for better and for worse. The records are like a medium, into themselves, and in that they have their own attributes through being medium. And as DJs, we present them and we curate them, but also we translate them. And that's a huge role for the kind of DJ in contemporary queer dance music culture. And I think part of the power of the kind of queer DJ in these spaces, because the truth is people right now really need these dance music spaces for so many obvious reasons, but the cultural artifacts we're using, what makes them beautiful is that they are in some sense, these records are these like actualized objects that are these like creative excursions, like people who are no longer with us who made these songs. Like these were their hopes and dreams. These were their beautiful songs, or these were their tough songs, or their psychedelic songs. These were their songs, and like we're carrying around these like very few copies. I mean, you might be like, oh, well, there's 1,000 copies of that record in the world. I'm like, that's how precious this music is. People go on Discogs, don't realize it because there's so few of us that collect this. But that's why, you know, there are DJs in this space, though, because we collect these things and then we bring them into the present moment. And there wasn't a lot of like visibility for trans folks in the scene that, you know, I came of age in, you know, and so I think part of what makes older records still have like a living force is that like young trans people kind of want to like translate them into the present moment, into their actual lived experience, you know, find these records to your like joke about the club mix, you know, that like carry certain messages and meanings, and that, you know, and in some sense that might be through like sort of double meanings or through like mixing things together will kind of like bring out trans narratives, you know. So I view myself as a little bit of a translator, and to be clear, that does also raise certain concerns to me because it's a decontextualizing cultural role.
And like Eris is saying, I mean, this is also built in these communal moments. So as being the DJs, it's like I could collect these records all day and play them for her at home. And while her and I have these connections to these songs and talk to each other with them, it's in the wider experience of playing them with other people and sharing communal spaces with other people that a lot of the heaviest memories are built around a lot of them. And the narratives are also pulled out in those spaces as we're weaving them together and being in those spaces with people. Like I just came back from tour and I just had a run this past weekend of playing 3 gigs and 2 of them were in really small, intimate spaces. And especially the last one was a very queer event I was playing. And, you know, the last one was like the most powerful one. And it was, I played those records throughout the weekend with people for the 3 different sets. And a lot of the memories I'll pull with them forward, and the deepest contextualization of some of those songs comes from that moment of being there in a queer environment with a lot of other people like me, and being able to kind of present that music and really see and feel the feedback that how I feel about these songs and what I think the power that lies within them, and then seeing that in that space ultimately with someone just feet away from me, also losing themselves in those songs in the same way that I'm having a very shared moment, and then that record to the next place. And that's not to say that
charging it.
Yeah, charging it. And that's not to say that the other events I did over the weekend didn't have that.
Yeah, that's honestly, it's so special. I've said this before, and I even said it in the previous episode, but like you play the record, it has grooves, the ravers are dancing, the ravers are sweating, the sweat condensates in the air and then settles back into the grooves, and then you literally have the DNA of the dance in the record. But it's tradition, I think. It's, you know, to have these communal spaces where we all dance to the same beat, and you know, specifically house. I have a vivid memory of being at Smart Bar when I was 21, and sort of in 2012 in the summer. And I had only been in the jungle and drum and bass because my first rave was like DJ Odie, and like Diesel Boy played the rave that I was at. And so I was really into that kind of music. And then somebody brought me to Smart Bar, and it was Derek Carter, back to back, Mark Farina, all night in Smart Bar at Queen. And I was very closeted. I was not out as queer or gay, and I was really trying to wrap my head around the transness. And I had never been in a place like that.
Queen.
And then I got brought to Queen, and I'm on the dance floor, in the middle of the dance floor, and just, of course, Mark and Derek are banging it, you know, like top notch. And I'm like really vibing, losing myself, and this guy, shirtless guy, is dancing next to me. And he looks at me and he goes, "Don't you just love this place?" And I was like, "It's my first time here." And he goes, "Welcome home, honey."
Cute.
It's like burned into my mind.
That's right.
I was dancing in the speaker a couple weeks ago to Maya.
Yeah, for Flowers of Romance.
For Flowers of Romance. I just went to rave on my therapist's advice.
Yeah,
Eris,
that's
Eris came to just see me play, and then I was DJing for, of course, at the club, but playing for her, and then playing for her mentor, Justin, and then being very nervous. Being like, I better do a good job.
But Rupert, the sound engineer there, Rupert Murray, oh my God, it sounds
great right now.
it sounds so great because
Amazing.
that's like the huge part of making vinyl really knock at the club is like the sound tech. They have to tune that system.
Yeah. It has to be tuned for vinyl, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
You can play something like that beautiful 80s record you gave me, the Jersey record, The Rain.
Yeah, Intense, Let the Rain Come Down.
A record like that actually has that thunderous quality to it that those early house records actually had. People are kind of like, oh, the kick drum's kind of light. It's like not the way they would tune old systems, of course, where that beat was made to be very present. Now you do that nowadays, and then you play new music, and it's going to sound really unbalanced.
It sounds really weird.
And that's part of why Maya and I invested in a sound system, because we want to be able to have a system that really reproduces the kind of house music that the three of us all love so much. You know, that mid-rangey, all that percussion, the voices, the actual layers of like really musical type of sounds in the mid-range and stuff. Because like contemporary dance music, is very like about the sub and about the like extreme high.
It's very maximalized. It's
super about stereo, which like of course the older dance music that's being optimized for vinyl was not. So our system's based around like the idea of people being able to dance into a single speaker column and getting a full frequency of sound
and a preservation of dynamics.
Yeah, and then like really good dynamic response. So we use like really really old like style like Class A analog amplifiers to power
and just like a limiter that you're never going to come near.
But I should probably mention on the subject of like sort of trans communication and music as communication, like the sound system is kind of like the record in the sense of being like this ritual object, this thing everybody's working on, because it's like these parties are massive group efforts. And then our friend Faye is in charge of our system and like has built many of the speakers for it, has launched now her own sound company, which we should shout out actually.
Yeah.
Faded Systems.
Yeah.
It's Faded. So. Yeah. FAITED Systems. And we love to see it. I would be surprised if she does not have some big clubs knocking at her door soon, because
I mean her stuff sounds amazing.
It sounds incredible.
Like I'm blown away at her stuff.
Yeah, it's actually a good segue into the parties that you do, though, because you have your sound system, you bring them around, and there's the T for T Love Energy parties. Talk to us about the importance of the community building and what you're trying to do with the parties, the system, and the message.
Well, there are why go to Detroit during Movement? Well, Movement is arguably the biggest underground dance music festival in the States.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah,
and a lot of the actions at the after hours, of course. And so our friends with Interdimensional Transmissions, they throw a series of events there. Like they do a Tresor night there. They do this like psychedelic rave called No Way Back. And it's all in this space called Tangent Gallery. And so we bring our system there because we can throw a proper rave, like late night into morning party in what is technically, I mean, it's like they have a license to operate and stuff, but it's not a club, it's not a club space.
No.
It's theater, and like really like set up our system and have it sound like amazing. And then there's this critical mass of people, because a lot of people come in, just for the afters and stuff, and they already know that like Tresor party and like the No Way Back and the bunker parties are going to be awesome. So it's like it's a really good pair up. And then cool thing is we can just like, have our friends that are like kind of loosely connected with T4T play, which is like really nice. And it's always been like a showcase for trans artists and trans artists creating something together.
Yeah,
honestly, the whole idea behind it is quite simple and kind of humble like that.
When we started dating and we started doing our first event, I used to have a residency with a friend Colin Matthews called Friend Zone. And first time Eris and I, we were friends and starting to date, and no one, when we were getting booked at events in the US, to either play at like the exact same time on other stages or like not together. And so I was getting frustrated because I wanted her and I to play back to back and no one was taking the bait. So I asked my friend Sam, who was doing the party with, he didn't mind if Eris and I played back to back all night at Good Room for one of the resident nights. And he said yes, and then we did it, and then it went really well, and then we figured it was a really nice thing to do together. So we called it T for T Love Energy, because her and I are two trans women in love. And then slowly we started expanding out from there to also be presenting other trans DJs and artists that we think are really wonderful and powerful and magical and talented, and to then have these kind of showcase nights where just really have these all trans lineups of artists playing and presenting them to a wider audience, hopefully. And then that moves from now into the communal aspect with the sound system and with everyone that we're working with. And we're a trans collective, and the speakers are run and managed by trans people, and they are built by trans people, and the set for System Activate, the lighting's by all trans people, and we're like trying to put forward more of what we do as this kind of like spiritual practice together, to build these communal spaces and to do this communal work together.
But also, if we're going to speak for Faye, I also do want to say I think it's important to her that people get opportunities to do sound tech and other things like that from our community, because these industries are shrinking and consolidating, and in some really ugly ways. And so having like places where it's like safe to learn and you feel supported and stuff is like really an important aspect.
Yeah, absolutely.
In doing these things together, because our events just like a couple days a year, 2 days a year, and that's not, one hopes that these experiences accumulate.
It's important. I feel like System Activate is kind of like the culmination of the community building that you've been like working towards for all these years, with like the all-nighters to begin with, and then the label, and now there's the not festival. It's a rave in the woods.
It's all right. It's not a festival.
It's a rave in the woods. Don't call it a festival.
Well, but, and it's also System Activate is, just to quickly say, it's a rave we are organizing with MX Blair and also Faye.
Yes.
It's a collective effort that's also trying to be outside of T for T Love Energy. With the label and things that we do, there's a lot of focus on Eris and I. So it's also an effort to be with more people and try to also just have more focus and organizational powers with a lot of other trans folk together.
But to do a party that is clearly for a lot of different people from the underground.
It's also doing an event that's almost run nearly exclusively by trans people and trans staff, without also being overt as part of that and speaking about it. It's really trying to be what it is with our community, I guess.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you guys to kind of like introduce it, just a short overview of what System Activate is, just for the listeners who don't know.
Sure. So every year on the anniversary of when the KLF burned $1 million on an island of Jura in 1994, so August 23rd, we go out to the forests of Vermont. We set up a sound system on some private land. And it's just a little clearing in a forest, and we set up our gorgeous system out there with our friends. Just, it's a real like kind of roll your shirt sleeves up, like homespun effort. It's mostly our friends DJing. It's a no alcohol rave. There's some like little food for sale. You can buy like some mate or some tea or whatever, but there's not really like much of any commerce and certainly no alcohol on site. So it's a proper psychedelic rave. It goes from Friday night till Sunday night.
And it's just the one sound system. Eris and I are touring DJs, and we go all over and we play lots of events. And there's typically multiple rooms in clubs or multiple stages at festivals, or it's a lot of people kind of moving from one place to the other. And also that can be really wonderful in that you can bring more artists, you can do more different presentations, people have more choices of places and things they want to go experience.
And
discovery. But one thing that Eris and I really love about having this sound system and doing the work is that we think it's really important to be dancing into the speakers, but B, it's also, we like this kind of like singular point of focus that you're going to, so that
to create cohesion.
So then to do a rave where it's just extended, it's durational. People can go do whatever they want to do, but there's kind of one gathering place if you want to go listen to music. Creates this this more singular experience.
Amazing.
And the last part of it is Eris and I really believe part of the magic of dance music is duration. So versus going to a concert or sometimes certain club nights, depending on licensing laws and cities that you're at, it can be hard to go to spaces that you can go lose yourself in one place for a very long time. And her and I find that there's a lot of magical importance in being able to be in spaces in which you can have durational experiences, meaning that you are there for a long time. So you can go in front of a system. We're going to have an extended like 23 or 20. We did it 23 hours last year. But, if you want to go post up in front of that speaker for 24 hours straight or something like that, you can. You can have a psychedelic experience of that in highly intentional and deep interaction.
Or you can put up a cot in the forest
and go lay down.
You're literally facing the speakers. So all of a sudden, and like you get that little drop of dB, you get maybe like a 10 dB drop, so it becomes like a little bit less club and a little bit more like how you would listen loudly at home, and then everyone's like tripping, like caught it out.
Yeah. So
it's pretty nice.
What's a really quick question, just because I'm interested, what's the longest each one of you individually has continuously played vinyl records, blended them for, and then what's the longest you've gone together? I'm curious. My personal is 17 hours records nonstop.
Well, you beat us.
17 hour. Did I really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I was at an after hours club in North Carolina years ago, but I went 17 hours from 2 a.m. to 5 p.m.
I love it. No, we a number of years ago we did the closing set for Sustained Release, and we brought 7 bags of records, and we had to stop playing when the organizers said that the buses were there and people had to leave. That was our longest set. Otherwise, it's her and I mean, typically when we would do all night sets, they're like 8-hour.
Yeah. That's still a lot.
Alone, I've probably done 8. I've done a bunch of all-night parties. So.
Yeah.
And I start to get pretty anxious if I'm on my own after 4 or 5 hours. So, like last weekend, I played in Miami. I was playing outside.
Did I hear you playing Natural Rhythms? Yeah, hey. Put a video on Instagram. Was that record?
Oh, yeah.
That is a great house record.
It is a great house record, isn't it? No.
Can I just tell you a quick story about why I believe there's so much cosmic essence to this whole thing, and that there's like mysticism to it? To me, I said in the previous episode with Ariel, where she was interviewing me, that the first sort of dance music records I got a hold of, or I went to a rave, I bought turntables, I didn't know where to shop or what to do to begin. So I went on eBay and bought like a chunk of 50 records or so of an old DJ's collection. And in that initial box was Natural Rhythms, Yeah Hey.
Girl, I've been collecting house music for decades. I just got that record. Like last year. I got it like late last year.
So I got that record in there. But the story that I'm trying to tell is that I think it was an interview you guys did years and years ago with, I think it might have been Paper Magazine, where they asked you what's the ultimate queer love song. And you said Friends of Matthew, Out There.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the records in that box was Out There that I got. And it was like, as a trans person, I had been scared for a really long time, to be honest, about who I was, because I felt like I would be blacklisted and ostracized from this community of, DJs and ravers and stuff that I had worked so hard to work my way up in. And so initially, when I found out about you guys, I'm like, wow, these are trans women who are spinning vinyl like I do, and they're proud of who they are, and they're actually doing this. It gave me a lot to be myself. And so I was following everything you guys did, and I read that interview, and I was like, oh, Out There. And then I realized that I had that record, and that I hadn't chosen that record. That record had come to me in a very cosmic way. Like I had bought this random box, and inside was this really special record to you guys. And
what a great, what a great message. See me, feel me, hear me, love me, touch me.
That is correct. That is the order. Is anybody out there?
Synchronicity is a lovely, lovely way to feel confirmed in your natural sort of connections. Things.
Yeah,
really
definitely.
Nice.
Definitely.
Yeah.
When we first met, Eris picked me up from a friend's house. I was doing a short interview it was like a little promo for a record that I was playing on Argo with Steve Mizek. And Eris came and got me. So we first met because she was going to be my driver for Smart Bar. She was my pickup for the day because she was a resident there and wanted to come meet me. And so we were going to go hang out. So we got in the car and we started listening to music. And you played me Nino World Champion. And then you started playing me Morales dub mixes. She started playing me a bunch of
Morales dub.
Playing me a bunch of Red Zone dubs. And I'm coming from New York at the time, and I didn't really have that many connections in the Midwest yet. And she starts playing me these records, and I tour a lot, and people would play me music and would share things with me. But it was the first time someone was really sharing music with me that was like, I was like, who's getting super excited about a Red Zone mix out in New York? And I was just like, who is this girl? And then we started talking more. And she starts sharing with me these records. So they're like tribal records. And she has all these prescription records that I really love. And I started going through her collection and just start realizing that all these things that she's just holds dear and holds deep and was buying at the time are the things that so deeply connect with me musically. And so I found with her this person that was like this, it wasn't a Venn diagram of tastes. It's like a full
circle.
Circle. Sharing music and having lots of friends that are doing music. I mean, I have, of course, lots of overlap of taste with people, but it was in her I found this almost total completion of music I wanted to listen to and present and spin. And it felt so, I don't know, it feels like so otherworldly in a way to have this like deep connection with her and to have her come into my life and then just have this person that's just like, it's I didn't think there was someone else out there that wanted to listen to just the same things I did and heard the same things.
Yeah.
We would play each other Todd Terry records and
hear it as experimental music.
And hear it as experimental house music and hear all the wild programming and just the interesting choices, and that it's not like they're not, it's she got it in the same way I did, that I would play these things. We could just talk about it instantly in a way that I'm not trying to show it and be like, no, but listen to the drum programming. Like how, like I know you're like, oh yeah, those are kind of whatever records. It's like, no. These are not like whatever records.
I remember the first time I heard her play, or like it might have been the second time. I think it was the first, and it was at Panther Room at Output, the little house.
R.I.P. Yeah, great club.
Up there. Yeah, and she's playing like E Smooth, which for anyone who doesn't know E Smooth's music, he was a really popular mixer from the 90s. I'm sure, Lana, you got some E Smooth in your collection.
I do indeed.
And he and Steve Silk-Hurley and another producer, Maurice, were frequently featured as the three remixers on all these major label mixes, because they all do these very beautiful vocal mixes and dubs, which both would like honor the musicality of the original song, but also deliver a track that sounded fucking great in the club and had real musicality and emotion in it. So anyway, these are kind of like, these were at the time like 50 Cent records in Chicago.
Yeah, it was probably Joe Manda. I Cried the Tears.
That's a great record. That's a great record.
I think you played like Too Blind to See or something. I think you played Kim Sims.
Yeah.
Actually. And so I know people who like those records, but she was playing it like there was a whole army behind her and she was letting them know that it was okay to proceed. And that's like how I think of that music, meaning that it has, sorry, that's kind of a joke, and I don't mean to make it during wartime in like an insensitive way. But what I mean is that the music has like force of something that feels like, I don't know, like power behind it. Like it has strength. It has something that rouses the spirit, that makes the spirit want to do something extraordinary. Like climb a mountain, or do something that requires courage.
Yeah.
So that's what she would do with these piano dubs from these like R&B singers sped up. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, I think we might see each other.
I think there might be a common thread. Yeah. Before we move on, I have to know from each of you, favorite Red Zone mix.
One of the records is Starlight, the Blue Pearls.
Ooh, yes, the dub with like the rainforest noises in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I bought
that thing is.
That was one of the
first. On our first time record shopping before we were officially dating.
It was one of the Red Zone dubs that she was playing me, so it's always been
the bass. Like that second portion where it clears out, it's like these tribal drums that are slow. They're like 114, and he does that for like 32 beats, maybe even 64, and then it just kicks in the sub with no crash or anything. It's just like doo 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 doo. It's so good.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Morales cocaine music. I mean, I must.
He's amazing. I did sound for him once, and I was really, really nervous to meet him, and he could tell I was really nervous. And at the end of the show, he grabbed me on both my shoulders grabbed me, looked me in the eye, and shook me a little bit. And he was like, Lana, life is all about smiling, laughing, and having fun with your friends. And then he just turned around and wheeled his entire posse behind him, and they walked out of the club. I was like, wait, did that just happen?
That's great.
David Morales just shake me?
When I was dropping him off at the airport, and he said, "It's all about the songs." And I thought that was sweet.
That's sweet.
I thought that was sweet.
Yeah, my favorite Red Zone mix is on the B-side of the single for Another Sleepless Night. Mike Hitman Wilson, the Red Zone dub, where it's got the hip house verse.
They played that on the radio, one of those radio mixes for years and years and years. The original Hot Mix 5 and Julian Perez.
Believe it or not, so funny, keep coming back to this story. That record was in the mystery box from the beginning of my journey. Whoever sold me that box was seriously deep in the game. And I wish so bad that I knew which DJ it was, because it had to have been someone good. But
that's right.
I had a spiritual experience in, I want to say 2015, or maybe it was 16. Mike Servito played it at like 11 a.m. at No Way Back.
Sounds about right.
It was just mind-blowing. All my memories of No Way Back in Detroit are like so amazing. And maybe listeners will get a kick out of this. I think it was the first year, Eris, that you had DJ'd at No Way Back. Me and all my friends were like very up front and to the left, and we kind of had a side profile view of you on the decks. And there was one record that skipped, and it skipped once, and you, without even reacting, like bent over, put your lips right up to the needle and went and popped the needle over to the next groove with like this little breath of wind. And it like somehow cosmically landed like on beat. And like the record and the rave kept going, and like no one really noticed. And me and all my friends were freaking out. We're like grabbing each other and shaking each other. Like, did she just do that? What the hell just happened? Did she just blow the needle into the next groove and it landed on beat? Like, what the hell is going on?
Sounds about right.
My hands were really wet because of how hot it was, and I knew if I touched the needle that it
was going to get more clogged.
It would make it worse because I would get the immediate dirt off, right? But then I would make the situation worse because it would serve as a magnet because the water itself is charged and so is dust. So I was like, well, I got to try to blow it off.
I'll never forget it. Yeah, just amazing story. I mean, I could go on with stories about you guys and vinyl records forever, but I guess in the interest of wrapping this up on, a positive and exciting note, I guess, what are your hopes for the future as it pertains to records and vinyl, and then the future generation of vinyl DJs?
Last year movement, there was a really interesting moment where Eris and I went to Threads in Detroit, and we walked in the store, and there weren't a ton of people. There were like maybe 10, including us. But it was a whole lot of young people, and everyone was trans, and everyone was buying records.
It was dope.
And so, and then we ran into a couple of people that knew who we were, and then some few people that either didn't let us know that they knew who we were, or were just shopping. And I thought that was a really cool moment, because I was just like also meeting a lot of young trans DJs that are wanting to play records right now, and. Yeah. So my hope for the future is that there's kind of so not that long ago, I feel that there was a large backlash to, of course, vinyl as a medium, because it was being weaponized at a point to essentially say, if you are a serious and real DJ, the only way to be a serious and real DJ is to just play records. If you don't want to play records, you ain't a fucking DJ.
Yeah,
it's a whole argument that has nothing, that has
so anachronistic at this point.
Yeah, and it like has no it's about gatekeeping and class and access to tools, and it's a whole lot of bullshit. And it was a lot of people trying to really protect an idea that they had spent time and money and invested so much in a thing that what they were doing was much more real than what other DJs were doing. That time has passed. Most people play digital now. So Eris and I, we do workshops, and we try to mentor people on learning to play records, not so that they can be vinyl only DJs, but we of course highly encourage people to learn how to play records because we think they're amazing, but also that for young DJs right now to learn how to mix records, learn by only using their ear, That's only going to make them a better DJ no matter what medium they want to be engaging with. So I find it really encouraging right now that there's people that still want to engage in records, just because I think it's going to it'll only make them better DJs across the board.
Yeah.
Just like the record store thing, I mean, it does seem to be that there's some kind of intergenerational sharing going on with these records. So especially being myself, like being a 50-year-old DJ who's like super obsessed with this stuff. And for me, it's like tons of life energy in it. Like, I am so happy to be a part of that. So I just hope, you know, if what I see with my own eyes is as pure as I think it is in this world, fucking like that is super now like mediated interaction wise through media and through technology and through lots of stuff that's tracked. And, you know, not to sound like paranoid, but let's be real. And we're all living in this security state right now. I think having these like kind of simple artifacts that we're kind of using to still like to sort of like tell our stories and to get together around, I think that is the future for it. Is that it's like not a grand ambition, in that I hope like little groups of people still keep kind of congregating around these things and keeping these sort of practices that are really hard to teach online and stuff. So, you know, Maya and I in the future, we really want to have like an institute where we can get people together and like share techniques, because she and I do workshop, but they're always, you know, they're always like finite. They're always very tied to like where we are in that moment, and then we're on to the next thing. So
we've made a couple resources online that's like free resources for upcoming DJs. We have one in particular called Hot and Ready DJ Tips, Trips, and Techniques. It's been translated into a number of other languages by very sweet individuals and collectives from around the world. And it's like a 28-page PDF that just kind of goes over all sorts of things, from playing records to stuff to bring to the club to tips on starting collectives and people to work with and stuff like that. And it's on our website. We don't run ads on our website. It's on a totally free platform. No one makes any money from it. We don't make money from it. And people should share it as much as possible. The whole point is to get tools and tips to people that don't necessarily have it. So we love sharing that.
So I think that's a really wonderful place to wrap it up. And I want to thank you guys so much for coming and sharing your thoughts, your laughs, your love for each other, your love for vinyl.
I love this girl so much. I love her so much. I really appreciate you talking to us, and I'm able to speak a lot more about the music more intimately now because of Eris and
I because of you too.
Because of the time we spend together and the, you know, being in love with someone that also loves the same music means you two are, you know, the two of us talk about it a lot.
I'm so grateful for you guys, and I guess I'm going to invite Ariel back in to take us out here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was such a joy for me to just listen in and like learn so much.
It was really great.
Thank you so much for joining us. That was an incredible conversation with Eris, Drew, and Octo Octa. You can find out more about the events they're throwing, as well as the Hot and Ready DJ tips that they have for free on their website at t4tloveenergy.com. That's spelled T4 as in the number, TLUVNRG.com. You can also follow them online at Instagram at their handles at Octo Octa. That's OCTO, OCTA. And Eris Drew, ERISDREW. And you can also check out Alana at Alana_DEEJAY. Thank you, Alana, for hosting such a wonderful conversation. All wonderful vinyl-only DJs. Such a pleasure hearing from all their collective experiences as vinyl DJs. You can also find out more about the work that we do as Trans Music Archive at transmusicarchive.org or on Instagram at Transmusic Archive. We are a nonprofit organization with the focus of helping trans musicians press vinyl and building a physical archive of vinyl made by trans folks. And again, lastly, thank you to Women in Vinyl for having us and giving us this platform to chat about vinyl in the queer and trans community, its importance in nightlife and our culture. Please go support them at womeninvinyl.com. Thank you.
This episode has been brought to you by Women in Vinyl and Red Spade Records. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe, and you can always contact us directly by visiting www.cultivating.com. womeninvinyl.com.